mom, erased by the same world that made her a star. Born out of beauty, trapped by its web, she's a perfect cocoon and toilet girlfriend. Music a spectacle, her thoughts too pure. The light of her being, her exotic allure. Was torn at the seams, too daring to dream. It's so hard to speak when you're spoken in. Scream, yet it's all that it seems. Feels like a dream, but it's life and it's death. Like baby's breath. Don't believe humans anymore. Don't believe, never believe, won't believe.
Yo, what's doing? You're hanging with the beast, and it has been a bit. It's been a long bit, actually, man. I think the last episode I did was sometime in June, right after I saw the brilliant Elvis movie. Yeah, man, took some time off. Had a lot of shit going on. A couple dragons to slay, and a couple houses to paint with my feet, and all that good stuff. But yo, if you heard that intro, man, that is this is a song for Hedy Lamarr, a new tune from Johnny Depp and Jeff Beck off their album, which I actually have been listening to a little bit, downloading on Spotify, where I was told it's getting a lot of play, which is much appreciated. So this episode, man, is all about the show I saw Saturday night at the Paramount in Huntington, Long Island. I had the pleasure to see the great Jeff Beck and Johnny Depp combination. A friend of mine had gotten the tickets. She is a humongous Johnny Depp fan, as am I. And good thing is we were able to also get my sister Liz, who's a huge Johnny Depp fan forever, and her husband Chris to come. Me and Chris being, musical fans, musical nuts of the same tribe, basically, because we grew up in the same time with a lot of the same great acts. But we never had the pleasure of seeing Jeff Beck before, who's by far one of the greatest guitarists of all time. I've heard, various songs by him, those wonderful instrumentals by him. Just, all things a guitar wizard. And I think it's easy to say that he goes up there with the greatest guitarist of all time. In fact, I was just having this conversation with my brother-in-law that evening as we were watching Jeff Beck wail away on his guitar. I think it's, obviously it's subjective. It's subjective, I should say, on who you think the greatest guitarists of all time are. I have my opinion, you have yours, and the Scarecrow has his or hers or whatever the fuck. But that being said, everybody's got an opinion on it, and I think that if you can kind of come to a conclusion or like a joint opinion on who you think the best guitarists of all time are, whether you have a chart, I don't know if you're going to do it by numbers because it's really hard to do that, but whatever the fact may be, Jeff Beck is definitely up there. And this is something we were talking about the other night when we were kind of watching the show and just taking in all that was Jeff Beck. The good thing about it is that the first couple of songs that he performed, because this was their second back-to-back show in the Paramount. They had been there on Friday evening as well. So we had the set list beforehand. Sometimes it did change a little bit in terms of the song order, but not so much the way it was written out, which you see a lot of the time. But it's funny because I always put Jimi Hendrix as the greatest guitarist of all time. That's just my opinion. It's something that I just feel like guitar, Jimi Hendrix just makes sense. Obviously, the man needs no reason why. If you don't know who he is, go and do your work and find out, like I had to do when I was younger, like everyone had to do when they were younger, especially the cats who grew up in the 60s who got to see the genesis of Jimi Hendrix, which, again, maybe in another life I'll have that luxury. But I got to view it later on when he was passed, unfortunately, as I do with a lot of my musical idols, whether it be Elvis Presley, whether it be the great Jim Morrison, so many others that I look up to. But again, in my opinion, Jimi Hendrix was the greatest guitarist of all time. Now, the other night, Jeff Beck did his version of Little Wing. Did a cover of Little Wing, and obviously there's no lyrics in the song that they were doing. They weren't singing the lyrics, I should say, because if you know anything about Jeff Beck, you'll know that he does he's known for a lot of just the instrumentals. Of course, not all his stuff was instrumental just through the guitar, but a lot of it is you're taking in. I want to kind of put it up there, like, if you ever seen a classic genius pianist play the piano, it's similar to that in terms of a guitar with Jeff Beck. It's just taking in all these things he can do with that instrument, the sounds he can make, especially him being known for making the guitar talk, which my sister was blown away by. That is something that you really have to take into just your brain, and just as you're watching this go on. And so, there are people that's like, well, it doesn't have lyrics. It doesn't have to have lyrics, man. It's almost like it's a sort of, almost, it reminds me of classical music where there weren't any lyrics. The great Beethoven's, the great Mozart, the great Beethoven's. Like, there was one more than Beethoven, right? Unless he cloned himself back in the fucking day. No, the great Beethoven, the great Mozart, the great Bach. They didn't have lyrics. They didn't sing along to the songs. I don't know if there were lyrics. I doubt it, but it was the sound that they created. That's what Jeff Beck does. That's exactly what it was like. It was like watching a master at work, basically. I've only felt that way a couple times in my life, in terms of total and overall music. Not to digress, but another time would have been when I was very lucky to go see the great John Cale with my older brother Christian at the Brooklyn Academy of Music about 2 or 3 years ago. Watching him again was like watching a musical wizard come together with all these other different musicians, lead the way, and kind of form this sound that they were making for that evening. That's the way I take in Jeff Beck. That's why guys like that, musicians like that, are so special. You have to take that into consideration, so you don't always need lyrics. So watching him play for the first half of the show was very interesting, because it was just a lot of guitar work on some of the more famous songs that he's known for, and for other things, some wonderful covers. Like I said, Jimi Hendrix's Little Wing, John Lennon's Isolation, Beatles' A Day in the Life. It was great, man. He also played along on with Johnny Depp when they did a cover of, which blew me the fuck away, which caused me to scream out loud and shake. I had to shake my brother-in-law. Every time I'm at a concert and something comes on that really turns me on, really gets my pineapple to squeeze, I got to shake somebody. I told this story a couple times. Sorry to be repetitive, but I was at a Soundgarden show once in Jones Beach, and they played Outshine. There was a dude in front of me with his wife. I didn't know the guy from, a brick in my ass. So I just grabbed him by the back, and I just started pushing him, shaking him. His wife turned around, probably was like, who is at the time this bearded, muscle-bound, the beard at the time, wacko doing this? And I looked up at her and I said, I'm sorry, I just have to shake your husband. And he shrugged his shoulders like he didn't give a shit. So I had to shake my brother-in-law when I heard Venus and Furs, because it's by far one of my most favorite songs by the Velvet Underground. By the way, if you do listen to that, listen to the original carefully. You will hear the great John Cale on that viola just fucking absolutely eerily killing it. But again, they did a version of that the other night that was amazing. I actually have it up. The videos are up on my Instagram page. You can see them do about 30 to 40 minutes of it, and they sounded phenomenal. So it was really awesome to see them do stuff like that, and then do original stuff. I know the album they put out has a lot of covers, but this a song for Hedy Lamarr that we opened with was really good. That being said, so again, going there to see the two was just amazing, an amazing experience. Like, let's face it, this show is called "Give Me Back My 90's Music." Well, here's a fact: Johnny Depp is by far more than an icon. He is one of the most phenomenal actors of all time, one of the most creative actors of all time, one of the most creative artists of all time. By far, one of my favorite actors of all time. And from that fact alone, we have to go back to the 90's. In fact, the Russian, Melanie Skunsa, a.k.a. the Russian, but she's Croatian, as I call her. We were having a conversation about, on the way home from the show, about all the great movies he did that he was in. Obviously, if you go from the 80's, from 21 Jump Street, which I never watched, okay, to Nightmare on Elm Street. Everybody remembers that. You know, he died in the center of the bed with the football jersey on. All the way up into, you know, Platoon, where he played Lerner. I do a great impression of Tom Berenger from that movie when he screams at him. What does he say? He goes, "Oh, bullshit, Lerner." Yeah, got that role, and then that was in '89, and then of course to the great Edward Scissorhands, which I was just watching. I gotta admit, I cry at that movie every time. I don't care what anyone says. Every time I hear that music or they get to the end, I tear up like a little bitch. Um, Phenomenal movie, and then look, everything he's been in has been wonderful. Whether it's Blow, whether it's Sleepy Hollow, whether it's Public Enemy. Obviously, the great Captain Jack Sparrow, Ed Wood, for which he should have won an Academy Award and could have been probably his best film by Tim Burton. I mean, the guy is an icon, and everything that has been going on with that terrible, you know, case with that crazy Amber Heard chick, you know, obviously just kind of put him on the map, I guess, a little more for those who weren't familiar with him, but not for the best life. But in a sense, it worked out for the best way because he was able to show that she was a lying, crazy bitch, which, again, the Russian, a.k.a. the Russian Melanie, she knew that right away. Yeah, that chick, a couple cans short of a six-pack. I don't know, dude. That's not saying a lot, you know. The way it came off just by, like, looking at her and just, like, I don't know much about her, and just by, like, hearing what she was saying, she ain't a couple cans short of a six-pack. She's a couple hundred buildings short of a mega city. But it was good to see him, you know, come out on top of that. So again, like coming off all that and everything that he's experienced, you know, it was something, man. It was like a once in a lifetime type of thing you get to do. We had a really good, you know, we were able to. It's Paramount's a great place for a show. Number one, it doesn't fit too many. You could stand, you could sit. I've seen Volbeat there. I've seen Alter Bridge with Slash there. I think I saw Motionless in White there. I don't think I saw Typo Negative there. For some reason, I was in this thing the other night and was like, did I see Typo here? I doubt it. So I've been there a couple times. A really good venue to see a show. And we had really good standing room seats. Standing room seats. Listen to that fucking line. Standing room seats. That makes no fucking sense whatsoever. Really good. Had a really good vision. We were really close, which is a good thing about that place. Unless you're all the way back in those movie type seats that they have. Because I think it was an old movie theater. But anyway, yeah, I mean, he killed it. I mean, Johnny Depp killed it as a guitarist. You can really appreciate his musicianship, especially in person. And of course, like I said, just mixed with the legend like Jeff Beck, who's in the Musical Hall of Fame, I believe, twice. Once single, and the other one is part of the Yardbirds. It's just a perfect match. Also, too, let me tell you something, man. Johnny Depp and Jeff Beck's band was absolutely fucking kick ass. I mean, they had this badass bassist. I don't know. I'm Googling her name right now. She was fucking phenomenal, man. There was this solo. She did a solo and absolutely just killed it. Kind of reminded me of like Flea a little bit. Let's see if I can find it. It's obviously not the Hollywood Vampires, who was um, you know, who's the other band he plays with, Alice Cooper and all that stuff. But I'm just trying to look it up who they were. They were great, man. Trying to figure out who that chick's name was. She was great though, no matter what. If I find it during the show, I'll be able to implement that into the show, into the info. But whoever she was, man, she was great. Drummer was great. They had I think either piano player, or an organist. Not a big like musical setup, but it was great, man. So that being said, you really get to experience him as a musician. And of course, you know, like while you're sitting there, you're looking at Johnny Depp. You know, you're looking at all these characters you've seen him play. And you see them all there. I mean, it was crazy, man. It was really crazy. I mean, the guy is one of few people that can do all these wonderful things. You know, he's also directed film before. I think the movie was called The Brave. or I forgot the other movie name of the film he directed. Again, I'm looking that up as we speak. I know he only kind of did it once. The movie, for some reason or another, it was more of an art house movie back in the day when we had independent films, real independent films, and I don't think it did like a lot of damage at the box office. But you know what? That doesn't mean anything because a lot of things that don't do damage at the box office sometimes are the best that you have to find, and that's just okay too because they're like gems, little gems, and you kind of feel like you're the only one that has found this gem, yet there are a whole group of other people who appreciate it the way you do, and you wonder, well, what the hell, why didn't that do anything? So just looking this up right now, yeah, the movie was called The Brave in 1997. I never had a chance to see it. It's on my to-do list, and I see he's directed a bunch of his ex-wife's music videos, which is really good. So yeah, I mean, other than the acting, he's also produced. Obviously, he executive produced that movie City of Lies, where he plays the detective with the great Forrest Whitaker, where they're investigating the deaths of Tupac and Biggie. And he also produced that new film that he had just released called Minamata, which I have not seen at all yet. He also produced the movie Mordecai, was that funny movie. I didn't check that out. Lone Ranger, Dark Shadows, Rum Diary was phenomenal. He was also one of the producers on Hugo, which is amazing because I had no idea about that till now. It's a great movie. So again, all these things he's done, you're watching it in real time. It doesn't, it doesn't resonate um, when you're kind of looking at him. You have to like really take it into consideration. And then afterwards, it kind of hits you a little bit more. And I think that's what we did. We walked outside. We're like, fuck, that was Johnny Depp, dude. That was like Jack Sparrow, uh, um, you know, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, Raul Duke. I mean, all these great characters, and then it's him, and then it's funny because everything that's gone on with this case and everything that you've seen, you're looking at him now and you're saying, oh, this is like the guy who you saw on TV going through all this craziness with his ex-woman there. So that, but like for someone like me who's not obviously a teenager or whatever, um I don't look at it like that. And again, there were flocks of people there to see both artists. I mean, there were a lot of more old school musicians there just to see Jeff Beck, who may not have been too familiar with Johnny Depp, and there were a lot of other people, primarily female. Can't blame them, man. It's Johnny Depp, dude. There to see Johnny Depp, and obviously, he obviously just murdered as a musician. So I have a whole new respect for him as a musician. As an artist. And on that note, I will say these: there were some people in the crowd that were talking a lot of shit about him negatively, like why is he here with Jeff Beck, and some idiot was talking about get off the stage. I hate shit like that. I hate people that just shit talk. Um, for anyone who does that, you really have to go and listen to him. I think in person to really appreciate him a little bit more. And once you do that, if you still feel the way you do, then you got a problem. Then it's not anybody else. But that being said, it it was an all around phenomenal show. As I'm talking, I found Jeff Beck and Johnny Depp opened their collaborative tour with the show at the Anthem in Washington. Evening began with the solo set from Beck and his backing band. Okay, I don't know if this is the people we saw, the backup band we saw. Maybe I'm just looking that up now. But again, great show, man. Great set. Yeah, this is her name. Her name is Rhonda Smith. Was the bassist. She was fucking awesome. Check her out, man. She was killing it. Um, absolutely, really impressed with her. Like I said, she did this crazy solo where I close your eyes. I thought it sounded just like Flea, man. I don't mean to compare her to him, but I think that's like I mean it in terms of praise. Um, the drummer was Anika Miles, and the keyboardist was Robert Stevenson. They were great, man. Um, Well, what a combination! Like I said, you don't know until you go and experience these things afterwards. You just say, I just saw like one of the greatest guitarists of all time play. He's 78. Jeff Beck, look, I mean, moving all over the stage. He must have changed guitar 1,000 times. Does not look his age. He's just right in there with the Keith Richards, the Jimi Hendrix, the Eric Claptons, James Burton. You know, all the greats, man. You really appreciate it when you see him. And go when you go look him up afterwards, like I did, just for reference. The guy has had a musical career like nobody else. One of the things that I really appreciate about him was I was reading how he wasn't really interested in so much of the aspect of churning out commercial music with singing and everything. He kind of wanted to do his own thing, which I really appreciate. Um, and again, listening to him play, you can see why um, he is who he is, and he's in the Musical Hall of Fame. And I think that's something too that some people may not take into consideration sometimes, is that when you're seeing an artist who's in the Music Hall of Fame, I think it does something. You know, it does something to you. It really just makes you appreciate it more. It makes you take it in more. I mean, that's what it does for me. And I've had the luxury of seeing a lot of musicians who are in the Hall of Fame. You know, whether it's Jeff Beck, Guns N' Roses, um, a lot of other '60s acts, uh, Lou Reed. You know, all these guys, John Cale, all these people had the ability and the chance to see everyone like that. It's just amazing. Just looking over when you hearing him play the other night, I knew right away from that sound. He has a distinct sound, Jeff Beck, and I'm just looking at. I knew for a fact that he was doing also music or had done music for various movies. So he's also done music for movies such as Risky Business, Porky's Revenge. That's right, man. He's in the movie Twins. Holy shit! When Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger are in the bar and they're doing that funny dance, that's him on the guitar. Holy shit. Gremlins 2, Honeymoon in Vegas, let's see, The Cowboy Way, Little Big League, Casino. He performed that song, I Ain't Superstitious. I think that's from the Jeff Beck band with the great Ronnie Wood and the great Rod Stewart. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I mean, his music has been in a lot of movies. I knew for a fact. I said that sound is just distinct. And then, of course, he's also scored music, been a composer, which is really interesting. He scored the music for the movie Blue Chips. I really have to go back and watch it again. It's a phenomenal movie with Shaquille O'Neal, Anthony Hardaway, Nick Nolte. But again, you're watching this guy who's done all these great things, and you may or may not take that into consideration. So for a lot of people who were there, just didn't know who he was, never saw him live, it does something to you if you appreciate it. And then the same thing with Johnny Depp, just being there, seeing a guy who I grew up on. I mean, when you think about the movies we grew up on with him, like I said, Nightmare on Elm Street and Edward Scissorhands, and obviously 21 Jump Street if you were watching that. Who's Eating Gilbert Grape, Benny and June. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Anything the guy does, he's phenomenal. And anything he's in, even if the movie's not great, his performance is always top notch. And I think with everything going on, it's only going to catapult him into another area. I also think that he's also found another area where he's really kicking ass. Just looking at this album, it's got a really good bunch of songs on it. A lot of them covers, and I have it downloaded to my Spotify. I definitely suggest that you do the same because the music is really good, and he really did a great job singing. Like we had that intro to. I'm not sure if he wrote that song, but the album's called 18, obviously. And let's see. I'm just looking at it as we speak. Track listing. I don't see. He's like I said. He covered a lot of songs, but he does have some original ones on here too. Midnight Walker, Davy Spillane, Death and Resurrection Show, Time by Dennis Wilson. Uh, Don't Talk, Put Your Head on My Shoulder by the great Brian Wilson. Let's see. Caroline, no, Brian Wilson. Does Oh Baby Baby by Smokey Robinson. He didn't perform that, but that's on the album. What's Going On by Marvin Gaye. Venus and Furs by, of course, Lou Reed and the Velvet Underground. Let It Be Me, which I believe is the version Elvis covered. Same song. Isolation by John Lennon. And then there are some original songs on there. This is a song from Miss Hedy Lamarr, which he wrote with Tommy Hendrickson, is on there. And then another one called Sad Motherfucking Parade by Jeff Beck and Johnny Depp, which is a great name for a song. So again, he obviously another area, him writing music. So, and him being a lead singer on a lot of these songs, which is great, man. So again, it's just my hat off to him. And like I said, I tie it into the '90s because he was the '90s basically. And Jeff Beck was a guitarist that has been prominent in pretty much every age possible, from this, the '60s all the way up until now. Whether he was in the Yardbirds, or he had the Jeff Beck group, and then scoring movies, doing soundtracks to movies, working on various projects, just being the overall, like I said, guitar wizard that he is. He's like one of those guys who just is kind of relevant in all time. And only very rare people are like that in music. Elvis, obviously, Johnny Cash, the Stones, the Beatles, Jimi Hendrix, so many, and not so many, but that's, I think, exactly what makes them special, or what makes him special. So this was a phenomenal show. The tour's going to keep going. Obviously, they're not in New York anymore. I think they're moving on to Canada and then to Nashville, which really should be interesting, hence because that's like the birthplace of music. Then they go to Vegas, then they go to Los Angeles. But like I said, nonetheless, man, the guy has absolutely killed it with this tour. And obviously, putting himself with a guy like Jeff Beck, I mean, that's just an amazing, something amazing to just put yourself with this all time great. If you get the chance and you're in one of those cities, definitely check out the show. If not, check it out on YouTube, man. Or check out. Someone should definitely have the some of the music up on the videos from the show up on it. But various shows, I have a couple of mine on because remember, what, 2 nights at the Paramount, like I said. But yeah, man, it was ass kicker, bro. I mean, he looks great. He sounds great. He got that great. He had this fucking badass outfit, like a cowboy hat and a bandana. He just looks like all things chill, man, which exactly what you would expect from him. Just being a real chill person. But he's definitely got a deep knowledge and love of music. I think he's been playing the guitar for as long as he's been acting. But obviously, one wasn't the forefront. But, man, guy's got an ultra talent. It's funny, I was having a conversation the other night too about actors who are also either guitar players or musicians in other areas. And obviously, what came to mind was the Kevin Bacon band he has with his brother. I know Kiefer Sutherland has a band. Um, and of course, Jeff Bridges, I know, also did all the guitar work to that movie Crazy Heart, and he was touring for a while. Another phenomenal movie with a phenomenal soundtrack. So definitely, it's very interesting to see people who can cross over into both genres and really have a lot of success at it. I really give my hat off to them. If you get the chance and you haven't done so already yet, do me a favor and just shoot over to the YouTube page and give me a thumbs up. Like I said, it's good to be back, man. Took the summer off, and I was up on the roofs. I was cleaning tile. I was brushing my teeth with my kidneys. I was doing all these interesting things, feeding crows, um, learning how to speak Portuguese. I went to Siberia for a bit. I sold Pepsi. I drove a truck sideways. I did all these things. I invented new cement. So whatever. But yeah, definitely go over to the YouTube page and give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. I'll have some more content coming your way very soon. Going to take you out with some more uh, of that of some of that Johnny Depp that song, which was really good. Some more from him. Um, it's like I said, it's just so interesting to see, you know, to see him up there and know him from from one aspect, and then you kind of just like you're taking in all this other stuff while you're watching him, and you know, dude is really good at what he's doing, man. It's scary. It's almost scary, man. But you know, you're not surprised with a guy
It's
like
really
that
hard to show
because
up when
ooh,
you don't feel your
commercial.
best. I
That's
think
no
that's
good.
really important.
You're not surprised with somebody like that because the talent is absolutely ridiculous. So I'll take you out with some more Johnny Depp and Jeff Beck. You've been hanging with the Beast. Peace.
Believe a thief is a thief. Who's gonna stand up to give you relief? But what is possessed? It's so hard to digest. You've no right to sit down.